It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Greenville Panthers head cheerleading coach and dance coach, the director of spirit programs, Coach Stephanie Brant. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you want to get started in coaching in college?
Yeah. So honestly, in high school, I didn't even think I wanted to go to college. I had no idea what I wanted to major in, and I didn't want to just spend a bunch of money going to college, not knowing what I wanted to get a degree in. But towards graduation, I knew I wasn't done with the world of dance. I had been involved with dance since I was 3 years old, taking studio classes and being involved in my high school dance team. And my high school coach was my guidance counselor. So as I was sitting in her office, like trying to figure out what my next steps were, I realized I essentially wanted to be her. I knew I didn't want to be a teacher, but I knew I loved helping people. So I was like, well, how do I be a guidance counselor so that I can be a dance coach? Because I thought those two, went really well together with what she did for a living. So I kind of asked her the steps. I was also working at my local dance studio. And so I had the opportunity to, teach and coach there. And then my studio owner also coached a high school team and she needed a JV coach. So I started coaching at the JV level. So that's kind of what I started doing. So I did my undergrad in psychology. And then I eventually went to graduate school to do my master's in school counseling. But as I was working there, they knew I wanted to be a coach, so they offered me a GA position, and I started as a GA for the cheer program. I had no experience in cheer, but I had a great head cheer coach that I worked under, and she really taught me all the ins and outs of cheer. And we talked about the similarities and the differences of coaching cheer versus dance. And we did so well recruiting together and building our cheer program that eventually they let me start a dance team. So I was able to kind of start doing both. And I just felt really blessed that I just kept getting all of these opportunities. And I had all these amazing mentors in my life, from my high school guidance counselor and my studio owner, and then the cheer coach that I worked with while I was in graduate school. But I've always kind of looked at coaching as a vocation rather than a job. And I think that is the best mindset to have as a coach, because you do have long hours, and being in that position as more of a vocation and a calling, I think helps you have the right mindset for the long hours and all the things that we're required to do as coaches. So long story short, I knew I wanted to be a coach from just all the amazing mentors I had in my life. And they kind of put me on the right path to do so.
As a collegiate athlete, what was that experience like going to Southern Illinois and being a cheerleading and dance athlete?
So I wasn't on the dance team at SAUE. I minored in dance, so it was a little bit different, but it was very similar to my background, actually. So I grew up doing, studio and competitive studio dance and being on stage and doing more of the theater and dance stuff. So I got to perform in the shows there, and I knew I wanted to minor in dance to continue in my dance education experience. I grew up doing ballet, tap, jazz, and pom for the most part. So being at a program that was more modern based, I had a new experience on the dance side of things, just in a new style of dance. So I learned a lot in just the audition process, in my classes at SIUE, and just being, performing on a big stage versus the black box theater stage was very different. But I'm really grateful for those opportunities that I had to be a dance minor and perform in all the dance shows that I was able to do at my time at Edwardsville.
How was that experience like, getting to represent them and putting on their uniform for them?
Yeah, the experience was similar and different kind of at the same time. Like I said, I had experience of dancing on stage, but this was a whole new level of performance. It was a lot different from what I had previously done. So first of all, just auditioning and being cast into a role was really cool, because at the studio, I was just, if you were in the class, you were in the routine. So kind of at that level, you had that experience of auditioning. So then when you were able to put on the uniform, it was I earned this spot. And also just going on stage and being able to tell a story in kind of a different way with your body, your facial expressions, and your costume was really different. I also had to take some classes at SAUE that were like set design or costume design. So some of the uniforms and costumes that we put on, I actually helped sew and put together myself during class. So it just gave you a different sense of pride putting on that uniform for sure.
Coming out of college, what was that experience like being a head dance coach at Lindenwood?
I loved working at Lindenwood Belleville. It was an amazing opportunity. Like I said before, I was a GA previously. So when I was offered the position there, I really was just elated. I felt like my hard work as a GA had paid off. You do a lot of, again, long, hard hours as a GA, and you're always like trying to prove yourself. And Lindenwood was really great about recognizing those efforts from their graduate assistants, and then wanting to offer them full-time positions to help them continue the love that they have for their sport and for coaching. So I was ecstatic.
During that time at Lindenwood, what was that experience like also being the director of Spirit Squad?
Yeah, I wore a lot of hats during my time at Lindenwood. I had a lot of different roles there, but I loved every single one of them. We had a great cheer coach, like I said before, that I worked for when I was a GA. But there were some times that we didn't have a cheer coach because, again, like coaching sometimes is a revolving door and you have to take breaks to, take care of your kids or do other things. So there were some times that we didn't have a cheer coach and I would have to step in. And eventually my athletic director just felt like with that kind of revolving door on the cheer side that we needed a director of spirit just for some more cohesion in the spirit program. So he hired me as the director of spirit programs, and then I was actually able to hire another former GA to help on the cheer side. And we worked together for a couple of years, both as a GA and then when he came back as the head cheer coach. So that was really awesome. And Lindenwood Belleville sadly closed a couple of years ago. So we were really devastated. We had a really great program going there. We were devastated when they announced that they were closing that campus because we had so many talented athletes and coaches on our staff.
During your time at Lindenwood, what was some of the things that you learned as a head coach to prepare you for your next journey as a head coach?
Ooh. One thing that I feel like I've learned in a lot of my experiences is just to control your controllables. A lot of things are out of our control and we can't always be in control. Like a lot of us cheer and dance coaches are type A and we want to control everything, but that's one thing that, we can't always control everything in our lives. So just giving up some control and giving it to the Lord, controlling the things that we can control, but ultimately like letting God be in control of our destiny and our lives is something that I have to remind myself of daily. And I carry that with me through out my coaching career.
What was that experience like transitioning from Lindenwood to Front Bar?
Yeah. So again, when Lindenwood closed, I knew I didn't want to stop coaching. The director of athletics at Fontbonne had reached out to me and the cheer coach from Lindenwood and interviewed us because she wanted to start a cheer and dance program at Fontbonne. And ultimately, it was a great just transition for all of us because we were able to keep our coaching staff together. We were able to start spirit programs at Fontbonne, and they were honoring the financial aid packages of our student athletes from Lindenwood if they decided they wanted to transfer. So again, we had a great experience just transitioning from Lindenwood to Fontbonne because we were able to keep our staff together and, we could bring some of our athletes with us if they wanted to transfer and finish their degree there.
During that time, what were some of your biggest accomplishments
at Fontbonne?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think in just the second year of the program, we got second and third at the national championship. And that was just incredible. We kind of didn't expect it. Like we had amazing athletes and they were extremely talented, don't get me wrong, but all of us, the coaches and the athletes, like when we got to nationals and we took second, we were all like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Because it was amazing to see that the judges also, saw the amazing talents of our girls and rewarded us with that. So that was a really joyous occasion. And I also think just the recruitment goals that we had set for ourselves, we set those and met those every year, and we were able to just continue growing the program and giving scholarships to each athlete that would come into our program. So those are some things that I always pride myself in as a coach, is not only like the wins and losses and like, the score sheets and things like that, but also just being able to give scholarships and give students an opportunity to continue their love for cheer and dance at the collegiate level.
For you as a coach, what was that transition like going from Fun Fun to Greenville University?
Yeah, I think that was so going from Fontbonne to Greenville, like I really felt a strong sense of peace. It just seemed to be like the right move at the right time. I believe wholeheartedly that everything happens for a reason and God places us in places where we're meant to be with certain people for a purpose. And during my first year at Greenville, there was a lot of healing for both the athletes and for me. It's hard, obviously, like they lost a coach. I was leaving Fontbonne, so like there was just times where we needed to both heal as a coach and all of my athletes. We were really able to rebuild those relationships between the coaches and athletes, and just strengthen the connections between the Spirit program and the rest of campus, the rest of the student athletes on campus, the students, staff, and faculty here. And I was able to help the students foster their relationship more with the Lord. And I love just being able to share my faith openly with my student athletes, and Greenville really allows me the freedom to do that.
What was it like bringing over your experience from your last two previous head coaching stops over to Greenville?
I mean, I think we learn as we go. Obviously, being at Lindenwood, I was a brand new head coach. I, again, just learned a lot from my previous coaches, and you have some ideas in your head of things that you want to do and don't want to do. And a lot of things, and in the first two programs that I was coaching was a little bit of trial and error, like what works, but also like being really open with the student athletes because they're college students. It's not like they're children and I have to just like set hard rules all the time. A lot of it is like, well, let's talk about this. Like what's going to work for you guys and what's going to work for me? How can we, how can I give grace to you, but not like let you take advantage of that all of the time? So a lot of it was just like having conversations with them and realizing they're people, I'm people. We all have stuff going on in our personal lives too, but how can we ultimately like work well together as head coach and athletes so that no one's being taken advantage of, but also everyone is doing their job and showing up on time and doing all the things that we're supposed to do.
What was that feeling like the first time you stepped onto the Greenville campus as the head coach for dance and cheer?
It was amazing. First of all, just like during the interview process, I felt like campus was beautiful. I still feel like that. I love coming to work every day, and I just thank God for the opportunity that I have to work here. Yeah, I think at the first like memory I have with my team, I would say in that first year was taking them to camp. And at the end of one of the first or second days of camp, I was like, let's take a picture together. You guys did so great. I'm so proud of you. And they were all like in tears. And I'm like, what is going on? Did something happen? Did I miss it? And they're like, you want to take a picture with us? Like, you're proud of us? And I was like, yeah, why are you guys crying? And they were just so happy that I was giving them, I acknowledged that they were doing a good job and I was proud of them and I wanted to take a picture with them because I don't think a lot of them had maybe had a coach that did that previously for them. So that was just a big sense of joy for them and for me that we had shared in that experience together. So now we laugh about that every time we want to take a picture together. I'm like, no, don't cry, but can we take a picture together? So they had a lot of fun in that first year, especially, and just like building the relationships back with them together as athletes and, with me as their coach. And yeah, we continue building that every year.
What does a typical game day look like for you as a head coach versus for your athletes?
Ooh, that's a good question. Actually, me and my assistant coach were talking about that the other day because she's one of my former athletes. And I was asking her, I was like, is it harder being a coach or an athlete? And she's like, oh, a coach for sure. Like, we have so much prep to do that the athletes don't even realize. So that was kind of cool to like hear because she's now had both sides of the experience. But yeah, there's a lot of prep that goes into game day for a coach. So, I mean, we have our first basketball game this weekend. So like, for example, on Mondays when I come into the office, I'm prepping our script for the game, getting all of our music set on a playlist for the iPad. And then when we go into practice later, we're going through the script, making sure like we're practicing all of the dances and cheers that we would need to practice and kind of going through like what this is our first, game this week. So we'll kind of do a run through as well for our freshmen that have never been to a basketball game here before. So we're kind of going through all of that. But it's a lot of prep on our side as coaches. And then on actual game day, I'm here before all of the athletes are too. So kind of both like from what we do and what they do, we get here first, we're prepping all of our stuff. Even if it's like, sometimes we have to, get coolers together or have the girls go down to athletic training if they need to get taped or anything before a game. And then we're going into like kind of a mini rehearsal before the game to just prep the routines that they need for that game on the day of. And then the game starts. So sometimes we're here before the football players or the basketball players, depending on what game it is, doing like our field run throughs. But we usually like to do a Bible study on game days as well, at least during football season, because we have a little bit more time on game days. So we'll, run all of our stuff in the morning. We'll eat lunch and do Bible study at the same time and kind of have like a little team meeting. And then we start pregame for dance and cheer and then perform the whole game.
What does a typical competition game day look like for you as a coach versus for your athletes?
Yeah. So at the collegiate level, at least like in the NCAA, there's, cheer and dance isn't a sport. So we're still, cheering and dancing at all the basketball games and football games, and competition is just a little extra bonus for us. So we're not competing like probably a lot of our kids were used to doing in high school, like every single weekend. So we are blessed and we get to do some either regional or virtual competitions prior to nationals. And that's usually like what we tend to do each year just to get ready for the national championship. But a lot of college programs are only going to nationals and that's like their only competition. So usually, one or two competitions prior to nationals. And then we go to Orlando for our national championship. For me versus them, again, it's a lot of just behind the scenes work of, registering for competition, making sure all our waivers are filled out, registering for hotel rooms, make sure we're, staying within budget and getting a good deal on things, booking flights. So I'm like, a travel agent and like doing all of that crazy stuff too, making sure we have meals figured out and, that we're going to be able to get meals on time or that, they can be delivered to the host competition site and things like that. So it's a lot of just like prep behind the scenes work. And then during like competition days our girls and guys are, waking up early, doing hair and makeup, stretching, doing their reviewing whatever they need to do in the routine before we go to rehearsals, and then actually doing full out run throughs and then competing. So they're long, hard days, but super rewarding. And we get as coaches to see like all of their hard work come to a culmination of their performance at nationals. And actually yesterday at practice, my captains were kind of giving a run through to some of our freshmen of like what the experience is like. And they were just joking. They're like, you'll see coach beating on the mat, like cheering you on from the floor. And, that's how you're doing a good job because she'll be cheering you on. And so yeah, it's super exciting as a coach. And by then, by the time we get to competition, we can't really do anything. We just get to sit back and watch all of their hard work pay off when they take the floor or the mat. And that's a really good feeling.
During your short time at Greenville, what have been some of the things that you've been able to accomplish so far as head coach?
Yeah. So kind of like I said earlier, I think recruiting is something I'm really proud of for sure. When I took over the program the year before, there were only, I think, 8 or 9 girls on the team. So we went from being all girl and super small to now co-ed with cheer and dance and a lot bigger. So that first year, I think I was there, we had about 20 on the team. And then the year after, I think we had about 28 to 30. And then this year we have 36. So we're just like steadily growing each year. And I'm really proud of just the culture that we've built and the fact that, more people want to keep coming in and joining our program, whether that's like other people on campus just because they're seeing what we're doing, or, recruits seeing what we're doing at, high school events or on social media. And I think like, again, what we do, not only like at practice and on the fields and courts and mats, that's all wonderful, but also just like the culture that we have and how connected and close our team is together and just to the Lord, and being able to have team Bible studies is something that like makes our team pretty unique. And I think a lot of people want to be a part of that.
What does that tryout process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to be a cheerleader or a dance athlete?
Yeah. So I recruit all of my athletes, and I've kind of always done the recruitment model. When I was at Lindenwood, we were in the NAIA, and cheer and dance were sports. So I kind of started recruiting back then. But then I was really glad that, when I was at Fompon, COVID hit, everyone was like scrambling because you can't really you couldn't have tryouts during COVID. So, I just stuck with my recruitment model and kind of have kept it ever since. And I think it's really worked out. And that way, tryouts are hard because sometimes people come and try out and you only get a glimpse of them, or you can just see their talents, but you've never really met them or connected with them. So I love the recruitment process because in that process, like I get to see videos, I get to maybe ask their high school coach if they're a good fit for our team or if they ever had any problems with them as a student athlete. We get to, look at them like from an admission standpoint, so kind of the first step is them applying to the university, making sure they're a good fit for the university. And then once they're admitted, they can send us film, and they can kind of do that at any point in the process, while they're a recruit before they apply or, after they apply. And then their next step is to either like have a Zoom call with our coaching staff or come do a campus visit and meet with us in person. And they can come to some of our clinics, but those aren't required. I know some people like to do that, or they can come to a practice and, kind of step in with us during a practice. But I really like to see an athlete holistically and not just as a dancer or as a cheerleader. I want to like get to know them as a person and, talk to their former coaches and make sure I'm getting somebody good for my team. And that's not going to be, the negative Nelly on my team or, something like that. So I always like to kind of look at all aspects of them before I make them an offer. So once I kind of have that whole picture, our coaching staff will sit down and say, do we think this person's a good fit for the team? And then we'll send them an offer letter. And then we send a financial aid offer over to financial aid, and they include that in their scholarship package. And it's pretty exciting for our student athletes to get both their offer letter and their financial aid letter. And then they can decide if they want to commit. And we try to do as many signings as we can as well, whether we do it on campus here or, going to their high schools if they're local enough.
What is that like, seeing them fall in love with the campus and the facility?
Oh, that's like one of my favorite parts. I think our campus is really beautiful. We have a lot to offer, both, academically and athletically and spiritually, of course. So I always, tell students that during our prospective meetings as well, let me know if you feel like this is a good fit for you. But also if you don't, let me know that too, so we don't continue to like call you and hound you and, tell you things that you don't care about because you're interested in another program. But I think for the most part, a lot of students come to campus and they fall in love with campus, just as I did as a prospective employee. You get to experience a lot when you come to our Experience GU days. We have like our community campus worship and chapel basically once a week. So that's a really fun day to come. If you ever come visit campus on a Wednesday, we get to have worship together and a speaker during our chapel services. So a lot of students see that and they really love that they have that experience on campus. I think a lot of it is, meeting the team too and seeing like if they feel like they can see themselves being a member of that team in the next year and connecting with the current team, again, just to see if they feel like it would be a good fit for them. So when they really start clicking and vibing with our current team, that kind of seals the deal for a lot of them to know if this is the school for them or not.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen put on that uniform for the first time representing Greenville and seeing the seniors putting it on for the last?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really exciting for the freshmen. We have a lot of uniforms. Our cheer team is in its 80th year of existence this year. So we just celebrated that at homecoming, and dance is 20 years old. So we have a lot of older uniforms and newer uniforms. And our girls and guys get really excited when, they get to open their bags for the first time and see all of the things that are in there and trying them on. We had a freshman this year that made like a little TikTok of, all the uniforms that were in her bag, and she did a picture of every single uniform on her. And that was really exciting. And then for the seniors, it's super bittersweet. One of our seniors last year, again, made a TikTok of just, pulling out all of her uniforms and packing them in her bag, and then showing a picture of her in each of the uniforms from every year that she was on the team. And it's really bittersweet, but we have a great alumni association, both at the university and just in our Spirit program. I'm really proud of, kind of starting that in the last couple of years. So I send out a newsletter to our alumni quarterly, and then we also invite our alumni back to homecoming every year, and they get to perform with us at the homecoming football game. So we stay really connected with our alums, and while it's bittersweet the last time they put the uniform on and when they turn their uniforms in, they know they always can come home and have a place here to come back and share their experiences with.
As a coach, what is that like, as you said, during homecoming, seeing those alumni cheer one last time?
Oh, I love it. This past year, like I said, it was Cheer's 80th anniversary, so it was a little more special, and we, recognized all of our former cheerleaders that were here during like a halftime recognition, and we did that last year with the dancers because it was their 20th anniversary too. And meeting some of the girls that started the first team for the dancers was great. And actually this past year we did like a women in sports legacy presentation during homecoming week too. So we got to meet one of our oldest living alums on the cheer side. She's in her 90s and she still lives here in town. And she was at that presentation, and she participated in like 3 sports, and cheer was one of them. So she's just incredible woman. But yeah, it was really neat for our current students to hear the stories of our former cheerleaders and dancers, because it really puts it into perspective for them of where the program came from and to where it is now, and hearing again the stories of how they built the program to what it is. I think really helps our current students feel a sense of pride and belongingness to something bigger than maybe what they thought it was previously.
How's that like, getting to see your cheerleaders going into coaching or even into professional cheerleading after their career?
Yeah, I think I've had about like 14 or 15 of my formers either be a high school, a junior high, all-star studio coach, or professional cheerleader or dancer. And it's so wonderful. We perform at the St. Louis Cardinals game every year during kind of like our preseason time. So it's a good fundraiser for our team, but also like a big performance opportunity for us. And a lot of my former cheerleaders and dancers are coaching local teams too. And the last couple of years during our Cardinal game, my former athletes are there with their new teams. So it's been really cool to, take pictures with them and just see how far they've come, going from a student athlete to now as a coach and working with their team. And then it kind of just gives us another team to just cheer on, from the sidelines while we're there with them. So my team kind of inherits them as like our little sisters or little brothers. And, we cheer for their teams as well throughout the season. So it's really cool to see that. And I have one of my former girls is a current like NHL cheerleader, actually 2 of them. And my cousin is their coach for the St. Louis Blues Blue Crew. So that's really neat too, just to see them like go from being on my team as a college athlete to now being a professional cheerleader or dancer or ice girl. And just seeing like the love and the joy that it still continues to bring them. And it's also pretty inspiring. It gives me some inspiration of like, well, maybe I could still do this. Maybe I'm not too old. I could go out there and still do it myself. So I love that.
What are some of your future plans for the program, I think?
Well, I want to just continue to grow our cheer and dance program a little bit more, both like in numbers and, athletically, obviously. I think like the goal for our program is about 45 athletes in the cheer and dance team. We're about at 36 right now, so just adding a few more, but I'm graduating 9 seniors this year, so we'll see how recruitment goes this year going into next year with losing our seniors. Our mascot is graduating this year as well, and he's been like a staple for our program in the last 3 years since I've been here, so trying to find another mascot that can just continue on his legacy is going to be challenging, but we're ready for that challenge. We will be starting a stunt program in the next 2 years, which isn't necessarily affiliated with cheer and dance, but I'm also the associate athletic director, so I'll be overseeing the stunt program. as well. And we're really just excited to continue building our spirit program and our stunt program and just athletics as a whole here at GU.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of cheerleading and dance?
Be sponges is probably my best advice. Like, take it all in. Try to pick up choreography as quickly as you can, because it is hard for freshmen that are coming in and learning all of our, cheers, dances, sideline routines. It's a lot when you come in and like you have to forget everything from high school and, learn like 40 new cheers and 20 new dances and sideline routines and halftime routines. So just be sponges when you come in and give yourself some grace. And I think as coaches, I always try to tell our coaching staff as well to give ourselves grace as well, because you're not going to remember everything all the time. There's a lot of details to remember. So give yourself grace and be sponges is probably my best advice for freshmen.
What advice would you give those college juniors transitioning into being the seniors and leading the?
Ooh, that's a good question. Just again, try to take in as much as you can from the senior class, because a lot of our seniors are leaders, whether they hold like a special position within the team. Like, they don't necessarily have to be a captain, but a lot of our seniors are just leaders by nature anyway. So to just kind of watch how they lead and try to start taking on some of those qualities without stepping on toes now, because that helps us as coaches and it helps the rest of your team too when it comes time to voting for captains and voting for those special positions of, if we think we can see you in that position, like, have you ever done it before? Or is this the first time you're just trying to lead because you want a title? I think if they're already doing it, they're being a servant leader as a junior, that really helps the coaching staff and their team know that they can take on doing some of those more specialized roles as a senior.
What advice would you give those seniors that have aspirations of competing at the next level, whether it's the NHL, MLB, or NHL?
Yeah, I think they just need to keep honing in on their craft. So keep taking some tumbling classes or private lessons, keep taking some studio technique classes, or maybe taking a new style of dance that they've never done before, because you never know what that professional organization is looking for. They're all very different, whether it's soccer, hockey, football, or basketball. They all want something a little different. Some might want skating, background. Some may want a, just different experiences that you might have. And if you don't keep learning and growing as an athlete, then you may not be ready for those opportunities when they come. But also, I would say talk to someone who's done it before. So just because you were on a cheer or dance team in college doesn't mean that you know what they're looking for a professional organization. So talk to a former coach or talk to a former cheerleader or dancer that's done NHL or NFL or MLS or whatever, and just make sure you know what you're getting into and really research the organization and the program. A lot of the times at those professional levels, you need to know, who's the president of the board, who owns the team, some things like that. And it's not just about your skills as a cheerleader or a dancer. It's sometimes a lot more than that. So do your research is what I would say.
What advice would you give those future head coaches looking to build their own cheerleading program and spirit program?
I would say really know what you're getting into. Obviously, like, control your controllables, give yourself grace, like I always say, know what your non-negotiables are, because it is a really difficult position to be in. You take a lot of time away from your friends and family as a head coach or spirit director at the college level. You're, expected to be in the office, you're expected to recruit, you're expected to be at every home football and basketball game and travel for competitions and maybe traveling for tournament events and things like that as well. So there's not a lot of downtime. Make sure that it's a schedule that's going to fit your lifestyle and your family, because it does take a lot of, family time away from you. So have a conversation with your spouse or, your partner and your kids about your lifestyle as a coach, and make sure it's a good fit for you. Because I think ultimately that is a big determining factor of whether or not you can do this and do it sustainably, because it does take a lot of time away from other things.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the program?
You can find us on basically every platform. We're on TikTok. I think our handle is GU Spirit Squad. We have separate accounts for our cheer and dance teams on Instagram, and that's GU Panther Cheer and GU Panther Dance. Same thing on X or TikTok and or on Twitter. And Facebook, it's Greenville University Dance Team and Greenville University Cheer Team.
Thank you again, Coach Stephanie, for your interview, and best luck in your future at Greenville Panthers as the head cheerleading and dance coach.
Thank you so much.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brand. Thank you again, Coach Stephanie, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.